The trouble started 3 weeks after my wife, Emily, and I moved into our new home on Maple Drive, a quiet cul-de-sac that looked like a postcard of suburban peace. We had just finished setting up the nursery. Emily was 7 months pregnant, glowing, and proud of the garden she'd been nurturing from scratch. Fairy lights, lavender, small tomato vines, all the wholesome things we thought the HOA brochure meant when it said community charm. Then came Linda. You know the type. Every block's got one. If you've ever dealt with an HOA horror story of your own, subscribe now. You're officially among friends who get it. Linda was the self-appointed sovereign of the HOA board, the one everyone secretly called HOA Karen. She had a clipboard permanently grafted to her arm and the uncanny ability to appear whenever you least wanted witnesses. Her hair was always shellacked into submission, her tone polished with passive aggression. She introduced herself by knocking on our door at precisely 7:03 a.m. on a Sunday. Her first line? "Your trash bins violated community symmetry." We laughed, thinking she was joking. She didn't laugh back. Instead, she handed me a printed courtesy notice, complete with a color photo of our bins 6 inches from the curb line. It was ridiculous, but we complied. We figured, new neighborhood, new rules. Play nice. But Linda wasn't done. Within the same week, she started emailing daily observations. Paint color slightly off tone, mailbox height not uniform, Emily's flower pots, visually distracting. When Emily put out a small "baby on the way" yard sign, Linda left a note. Not an email, a note, taped to our front door. "Unsanctioned signage violates Article 4, Section B. Please remove within 24 hours to avoid fines." That sign was the first thing Emily removed, through tears. I remember helping her pull the little wooden stake out of the soil while our dog sat there confused. That night, I started keeping a folder with every email, every letter, every notice. I had a feeling this was only the beginning of something darker. Soon Linda began hovering. Literally, I'd catch her standing across the street, jotting notes into her clipboard. One afternoon, she waited until Emily came home from her prenatal appointment, then blocked her driveway to discuss a weed issue. Emily called me, her voice shaking. She said I should be more responsible if I'm bringing a child into her neighborhood. That was the moment something in me hardened. I wasn't just defending some property rights. I was defending Emily from psychological warfare. By mid-month, it escalated. We received a certified letter alleging repeated violations and hinting at possible fines totaling over $500. But the violations were trivial, things like Emily's garden hose being visible from the sidewalk. I knew the HOA board had to approve any official fines, which meant Linda was either bluffing or playing dirty through her personal influence. So I started digging. I found the HOA bylaws online and printed the full 38-page PDF. Over dinner that night, Emily and I went through it line by line like detectives. We discovered something interesting. Linda had no authority to issue fines unilaterally. Every notice required a formal vote recorded in meeting minutes. That meant she was bluffing. Power through paperwork. When I confronted her politely the next day, she smiled the way a cat smiles before pushing a vase off a counter. By week 6, living under Linda's surveillance felt like existing in a low-budget dystopian movie, starring us as the bewildered protagonists and her as the clipboard-wielding villain. Every morning, we'd peek outside to find fresh, courtesy notices fluttering like confetti on our porch. Each cited a new absurdity: unauthorized decorative solar path lights, excessive porch stepping stone count, and my personal favorite, yard scent intensity possibly affecting neighbors. Yes, Linda had officially measure-judged the smell of Emily's lavender. The evidence hunt was on. Our cameras caught plenty of nocturnal visitors pacing along the sidewalk. At first, just shadows. But one night, a figure paused right beside our mailbox, flashlight in hand. The timestamp, 11:37 p.m. The silhouette, short, unmistakably curly bob, Linda's signature outline. Armed with footage, I drafted a polite but firm email asking for a cease and desist from trespassing. Within an hour, she shot back. Recording HOA officials without consent may constitute a privacy violation. Consider this your last warning. It was so on brand. I almost admired the audacity. Almost. I contacted a local attorney specializing in HOA disputes. His name was Mark Patel, pragmatic, dry humor sharper than Linda's manicure. After reviewing the emails and footage, his first line made Emily actually laugh for the first time in days. "Congratulations. You've got yourself a textbook harassment by proxy case. These people think bylaws are divine commandments." He drafted an official notice to the HOA board requesting a review of Linda's behavior, complete with timestamps, screenshots, and bylaw citations. It was clinical, legal, and devastatingly polite. The lethal trifecta Linda couldn't deflect with charm. Still, she didn't slow down. She just got smarter. Now, instead of leaving notices herself, they came signed by anonymous concerned neighbors. The formatting gave her away. Same bold Comic Sans headers, same tragic clip art logo. Then, something truly vile happened. Emily returned from a prenatal checkup to find a letter shoved into our door jamb. An official recommendation that she consider temporary relocation until the child is older due to lawn toxicity risk. That was it. My patience dissolved. I took the letter straight to our lawyer and to Dr. Levy, Emily's obstetrician, the calmest man alive. After reading the note, he looked up and said gently, "Normally, I don't get involved in neighborhood politics, but this is intimidation targeting a pregnant patient. That can have medical consequences." Later that day, Dr. Levy drafted a professional letter addressed to the HOA board, outlining how Emily's stress levels from repeated harassment were endangering both her and the baby's well-being. His signature carried authority far heavier than Linda's clipboard. We sent copies by certified mail, one to the HOA's registered address, and another directly to Linda's home address, which, according to public records, she herself had filed with the city planning office. Talk about poetic paperwork. 2 days later, we learned our letter had lit a quiet fire inside the board. Mark forwarded me an email from another HOA member. "Off the record. We've had other complaints about Linda exceeding her authority. Thanks for bringing this to light." At last, allies were cracking through the varnish. Meanwhile, our cameras captured Linda pacing nervously past our driveway at night. No clipboard now, just her phone's flashlight scanning our yard like she'd misplaced her sanity somewhere among the begonias. The situation was shifting from nuisance to expose. So, Mark suggested a sting, not the Hollywood kind, but a crisp, lawful one. He advised coordinating with our county sheriff's deputy to log all future trespasses officially. Deputy Ramirez, steady as bedrock, agreed to stop by during patrols. "Nothing dramatic," he said, "just presence." Sometimes presence alone shifts the balance of power. And shift it did. One Tuesday afternoon, while Emily watered her flowers, Linda marched over again. Clearly unaware of the deputy parked 2 houses down. She started another tirade about unregistered porch decor, waving yet another printout. Ramirez strolled up calmly, badge glinting. "Ma'am," he said, "I need to note this encounter for the ongoing documentation." The clipboard froze midair. Linda stammered something about just doing her duty. He reminded her of the harassment statute and advised she communicate only through the formal HOA channels. For the first time, Linda retreated. No smug smile, no superior lecture, just the sudden realization that her empire of bylaws might be crumbling. That night, Emily finally slept through without clutching her phone. The lavender scent wafted again through our open window, unmeasured, defiant. But peace was short-lived. Because as soon as the board announced an emergency HOA meeting to review procedural concerns, Linda decided to fight back, and in spectacularly public fashion. The showdown was brewing. "If you really want to make this official," she said, "we can bring it up at the next meeting. But I wouldn't want to distract the board from more serious issues." Translation: back off or she'd dig deeper. That night, Emily woke up at 2 a.m. crying because someone had moved her flower pots and scattered the soil. Security lights showed a shadow moving fast. Petite, short hair, clipboard. Not proof, but close. The next morning, I installed a Ring camera, a small dash cam in our car, and motion sensors by the side fence. If Linda wanted a game, she was about to face someone who played by the rules, with receipts. But fate was about to hand us an unexpected ally, one wearing a white coat, not a uniform. The HOA meeting was scheduled for a Thursday evening in the community clubhouse, the kind of over-air-conditioned room where folding chairs creak and gossip travels faster than Wi-Fi. Every homeowner was invited. For once, folks actually showed up. Curiosity had quietly fermented into intrigue. Everyone wanted to witness whatever procedural concerns translated to an HOA speak. Emily, now 8 months pregnant and radiant with a quiet resolve, sat beside me at the front table. Our lawyer, Mark, looked perfectly at home in his crisp suit, one eyebrow permanently skeptical. Across from us sat Linda, pearls, pastel blazer, and a composure so rehearsed it quivered at the edges. Beside her lay the infamous clipboard, stacked with what looked like a mini mountain of evidence. When the meeting opened, Linda jumped in like a TV prosecutor. "I'd like to start by addressing repeated noncompliance from Lot 17, the Johnson family. This has been an ongoing issue jeopardizing community harmony." She opened her binder dramatically, displaying printouts of our garden, our porch lights, and the baby on the way sign she'd forced Emily to remove. Her voice rang through the microphone like a hymn to order. Then Mark stood, calmly. "No theatrics, just precision. For the record," he began, "we're in full compliance with the HOA bylaws. However, Ms. Linda here has issued multiple unauthorized citations, without board votes, without minutes, and beyond her scope of authority. Also," he paused, "she trespassed on my client's property at least 4 documented times." Gasps rippled through the chairs like popcorn. Mark clicked the remote. On the projector screen appeared night footage, that unmistakable silhouette, clipboard in hand, tiptoeing across our driveway. Timestamps, dates, and her license plate glowing under the streetlight. Linda's smile fractured. Mark continued. "Additionally, a letter was left at my client's door suggesting she temporarily relocate due to lawn toxicity risk. This was not an HOA communication. This was harassment." He placed a fresh paper on the table. A different kind of document, Dr. Levy's letter. His professional letterhead gleamed under the fluorescent bulbs as he read aloud. "Mrs. Johnson has experienced medically significant stress induced by continued neighborly intimidation. I recommend cessation of direct contact to protect maternal and fetal health." The words maternal and fetal health hung like thunderclouds. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. Every face turned to Linda. She tried to speak, tripped over her own tongue, then attempted a counterattack. This is a violation of privacy. They're weaponizing medical information." Mark leaned in slowly. "No, Linda, that letter wasn't about you. It was about your actions." Someone in the back, old Mr. Franklin, who'd been on the board since the community's founding, cleared his throat. "I think it's time we vote." 5 minutes later, the board voted unanimously to remove Linda from her position as HOA chair effective immediately, pending investigation. When the final gavel hit, well, plastic ruler. No one had bought a real gavel. Linda stood frozen for a beat, then gathered her clipboard and left the room without a word. The pastel armor cracked, her heels clicking away like punctuation to her downfall. But the cherry on top came a week later when county code enforcement arrived. Turns out Linda had been storing HOA documents, including confidential homeowner information, in her backyard shed instead of the HOA database. Someone from the board, rumor says it was Franklin, had tipped them off. The same clipboard she weaponized became Exhibit A in a local audit that stripped her from rejoining the board permanently. As for us, once Linda disappeared, life on Maple Drive changed overnight. Neighbors who once avoided eye contact now waved from their porches. Emily's baby on the way sign went back up, this time surrounded by a rainbow of supportive notes and baby gifts left by those same folks who used to fear Linda's wrath. It turned out no one liked her reign. They just hadn't dared speak up. The board issued a formal apology letter to Emily, citing undue distress caused by overreach. They also approved a new bylaw limiting HOA board members' powers to impose fines or visit properties unannounced. I framed that amendment right above the nursery door, a small reminder that paperwork, when used wisely, can protect as much as it can persecute. 2 months later, Emily delivered a healthy baby girl, April. Our first family walk through Maple Drive felt different, lighter, real. The garden bloomed again. The lavender scent spilled over the fence. Sometimes justice doesn't come from revenge or lawsuits. Sometimes it comes from boundaries protected, bullies exposed, and the right people standing behind the quiet ones who just wanted peace. And that, as Linda learned, is priceless.